This is actually an interesting question I got asked is why do certain players, especially after the patch, they feel much better, and why do sometimes your attack feel nullified? And to be honest, I had a bit of a contrasting opinion. I think now my opinion has changed. So what we're actually referring to is the plus pluses here. And I feel like now, before I said you just needed a player in the right position and whatever you had was a bonus. But I think now it's changed a little bit. I think you really need to go for the role plus pluses. There is, I suppose you can say, different reasons. I would say if I had to probably put it down to one thing, I would say is that I think it's because the defensive awareness of other players like defenders have improved. And, before we had players that had, maybe 82 defensive awareness, 83. But now, because you see in some defenders with like 90 plus, 95 plus defensive awareness, they're always in the right place at the right time positionally. And that's why I would personally say, from the attacking standpoint, I don't find my attackers making the runs as they once were. I think also there's a combination of things like, speed, the defenders are much quicker. Before I was the only one running 90 sprint speed on defenders, but now everyone is. So I feel like everyone has also caught up with that. So, I mean, I was going 90 sprint speed without a playstyle like a few months ago, whereas now it's the minimum. So I think if you're asking me for the best movement now when you're choosing a play, especially when you're doing an evolution, I would say you ideally want to find a player with a plus plus. I think the most important positions, where I think this is more important than ever, is the two strikers and then the half wingers. Look, I would say at this point in time, I'm going for advanced forward, like let's say a plus, as you can see just below there. One plus would be the minimum. Now, where you could see, I've always talked about this, like I've talked about this in my 352 that I mentioned. I talked about the importance of in a 352, you really need the plus pluses. But I think even in ordinary formations, even if we went to, for example, a 4-2-1-3, I think what's more important now more than ever is when I'm choosing inside forward, because stats are basically almost equal. I think a lot of people have the good stats now. It's gone on the days when you had bad stats. Some of these Evos are free, and you can even get like the Correa card. I was having a look at him. Show you in a second. He's a god tier player. So you can see when I'm actually choosing a player, I'm actually ignore Kadioglu there for a second. I'm actually more leaning towards, okay, has that player got inside forward plus plus? And that is how I'm actually defining whether that player is worth it or not. Now, I just want to show you something really, really quickly. We're going to go over here to foot.gg. And don't forget, there's so many recently. There's been so many, I would say, in the past, past week or so, there's been so many good cards. But if I just go to evolutions here, I'm just going to quickly show you how I'm basically and what I'm basically looking at. So this is the evolution that I'm probably leaning towards. Again, it's going to be completely up to you, right? But let's say an evolution that I'm looking at, especially on my second account, is this one over here. So I'm looking at this Correa card, and I'm looking at the strike force, and as I said, I'm looking really for the inside forward plus plus on the left hand side and the right hand side, and the poacher and the advanced forward. Now, me personally, I always use half a poacher, half an inside forward. So I'm kind of doing a bit of a combination. So this one is kind of what I'm leaning towards if you're asking me personally speaking. Another one I could potentially show you is this one over here, is the clinical finisher, because that way I can always use. So my other option I was thinking of with strike force, I can go ahead and go, let's say I go strike force and I go over with Sun. I was actually going to play Sun in left back actually with strike force, and he should be here. I don't know why he's not here. If we could double check him here, if we go to evolutions, so you can see this strike force is actually a very, very good card, 96 sprint speed. I think sprint speed is also important. I'm really going towards minimum like 90, 94, 95. I mean, 92 I get away with really good shooting, but I'm saying like 94 is kind of what I'm going with, just because defenders naturally are so quick. But you can see that inside forward and inside forward plus plus for both positions and advanced forward. So when you are maybe looking at some of these evolutions, maybe something to consider is maybe, okay, we know stats are a big thing. So let's say we're looking for a striker. We may go sprint speed. I'm talking 90. Finishing, I'm talking honestly like 92. And let's say we said shot power, we did 90. And then let's say the composure, we did 90. And then maybe at this point, I'll go for 5-star, 5-star. And you can see, look, we still have a lot of play. Look how many players you could actually technically choose from. There's so many pages. And then let's say, for example, here, this is where it's important. So you wanted a plus plus for the advanced forward. And let's say I chose a poacher. Let's say if I chose just these two, you can see we still got quite a lot of players. Don't forget, a lot of these are combination players. So when you add all these things into account, it's really important. So if you went, for example, looking for a striker, and then what you would do is you then look for the playstyle. So I would think at this stage you want minimum one of these. Ideally, I would personally want quick step and rapid, or at the bare minimum, quick step and rapid, and then maybe at least a low driven. So these are certain things that I'll be personally looking out for. And then you can see from here, let's say you chose the major leagues. Let's say we just did, but do League F as well, because I know people have got a lot of hybrids. So actually, it's not just stats that I'm looking at. It's actually I'm looking at, okay, does the players have this? And of course, with the play styles, you don't have to do what I did. You go with a low driven shot and just go with a regular quick step and rapid, and it opens up a bit more players. Or you can in fact remove rapid and quick step like that, and then you've actually got a few players, and you can see you can then choose. So I think for the best movement, I'll be honest, more now than ever, I'm leaning towards players that have the plus plus. So my recommendation, we get the plus plus. I think for the players that it doesn't matter too much, I think defenders, look, I think the plus plus gives you a big benefit, but I think a lot of the defending you're doing yourself anyway. CDMs I think is somewhat important, but I think the attack in front four, at least at the very least, I would say the wingers and the striker should at least have the plus pluses. The cams, I think you can kind of get away with because they don't really make that movement unless they're really making that shadow striker role. But I think at this stage of the game, you should be minimum looking at that. So I don't actually play Lino here. What I actually do is, I believe I put Kadioglu here. And then the argument is, for a fullback, would you prefer a wingback plus plus over a regular fullback? And maybe there is actually the argument for that. The only thing I wouldn't really, I would stay away from is inside forwards. I think this inside forwards are so powerful. I'd want to find an inside forward a plus plus. If I don't get the plus plus, let's say for example it's a winger plus, I'm still going to be playing inside forward regular plus over plus plus. So sometimes beggars can't be choosers. But the point I'm trying to say is, ideally at this stage, you should be ideally looking to get plus pluses in the most attacking positions. And I think with defense, because look, when the through ball's coming in behind, you're still going to manually choose your defend and defend normally. But a lot of the time, you might do an L1 trigger and that's about it. But these players are kind of running on their own devices. So just some food for thought. So I would say Roll plus pluses are much more important than you think right now. And if you don't believe me, try a team with just the basics and compare it to a Roll plus plus with the same players. If you can get similar stats, you will see a big difference. Of course, try to get the best attack positioning as well. But just some food for thought. Hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.